How much should you be using your wrists when you're pitching? In today's video, I'm going to answer that question for you, so make sure you check it out. Oh, it's got a chance. Very, very happy with that one. Now, you might have noticed I have on here a little training aid, and this is just to really show you, maybe give me the feel of how much I'm cocking my wrists in my backswing. And there are two options here. So when I look at good pitches around the green, so I'm calling these greenside pitches within that sort of 30, 40 yards and inwards. I've got here a shot of about 25. I either see players who go much wider on the way back, keep that width on the way through. And that works as long as it is short shots. You can't do that, I would say, over 40 yards. But within that, yeah, absolutely. That's not a bad method. In terms of tour players, you tend to see do that. Jason Day is a great exponent of that style of pitch shot. Before him, Steve Stricker, very wide, very little wrist action. And then you see some guys who will actually play maybe more of a Rory or a Tiger, and you will see them set their wrists a lot earlier in the backswing. And again, there is no wrong or right. Obviously, I've named 4 players there, and they're all fantastic around the green. So there is more than one option. If we do allow our wrist to cock on the way back, so the feel I was trying to get there was to get this yellow training aid just touching my lead forearm, my left forearm in the backswing. So you can see I've almost cocked my wrist there to around 90 degrees. If I hold that angle, I'd miss the golf ball. So if we cock our wrists back, we have to uncock them on the way down. And we could vary our trajectory that way with how much we release them on the way down. But we're talking about a shot here where we want height, elevation, stopping power from a reasonable lie. And that's the majority of pitch shots, okay? So those styles of players who will actually cock their wrists up are allowing their wrists to uncock on the way down. So what you'll see is this yellow stick here. This training aid is nowhere near my wrist, and then I'm trying to recock them on the way through. So it's touching my lead forearm in the backswing, just about, if I grip a little lower down the handle. It's coming away and almost pointing straight at my belly button, and then it's touching again on the way through. Let's hit another one of those. So I'm allowing my wrist to cock and down cock into impact, recock on the way through. The benefit of this style of method rather than the wider one is we do generate a little bit more speed, therefore we do generate a little bit more spin. I guess the downside is maybe a little bit harder to time than this wider one. So let's just demonstrate this one first. I'm gripping down so I can hopefully try and get that sensation. It just touches my forearm. And again, you can see it pretty close. It might not be touching it, but you can see it's pretty close to, and definitely that the shaft is pointing up in the air. Hardly grazing the turf, I'm just bruising it. So I know that although I cocked my wrists up, I know that I allowed them to down cock, lose that angle on the downswing, and then recock on the way through. The players who are using this method, as I said, they could vary the flight. And obviously, talented golfers who are practicing a lot, that's great. So they could hold a little bit more angle, not down cock as much, and hit the ball a little bit lower. So their first bounce is forwards before we start to start to see that ball check up. So there is an option with that one. But the majority of golfers, they almost want consistency of flight. If they could actually just learn one shot, one trajectory, how the ball reacts, that's probably going to be the best option from a good standard lie. If you're getting a chance to practice a lot, great. I want you to be able to hit the low one, the mid one, the high one. For your average player, I almost want you to learn one, and then I want you to change the club accordingly. So I could always use less loft if I want the ball to go a little bit lower, and run more rather than trying to change how much I down cock my wrists. So as I said, that style of player, cocking the wrists up, we've got to down cock them. Ideally, if we're going to hit this high floaty one using the loft, using the bounces we're meant, we almost want to get to a staged impact where our handle is about level with the golf club, not leaning forward. So this is very different to iron play, where we'd like our hands to be ahead of the golf club, de-lofting it. Pitching, we want to hit it with the true loft and bounce of the golf club. And the majority of golfers I measure who struggle are de-lofting the golf club too much, taking the bounce off the golf club, and they're struggling. So with this method, if we're going from a good lie, high pitch, we can cock our wrists up, but we've got to learn to almost throw the club down cock our wrists and then recock them on the way through. And that's where this sort of training aid could help. You could, even without it, just be aware of where the butt end of the golf club was pointing. So butt end pointing down, butt end of the golf club pointing at my belly button, butt end of the golf club pointing down. Okay, so it's down, belly button, down. So we're just getting that sensation of cocking the wrist and down cocking the wrist. As I said, the other option, and I want you to practice both and see where you're better. I don't even mind if you use both of these depending on the situation. If you're good enough and you practice enough to do it. The other option is just feeling very wide, more like a Steve Stricker, Jason Day style method. Wider, you can see I've almost got a straighter arm and club. Wider, wider. So I'm keeping the width. I'm almost feeling like there's a band between me, my belly button, and the end of the club, and I'm maintaining that stretch all the way through. I'm not allowing the wrist to cock as much. Now on a shot this long, you will see a little bit, but I'm trying to feel a lot wider. I'm a lot less worried about trying to set the wrists. So we're just trying to feel wide to wide. Hardly grazing the turf. You'll see a finished position where the club is almost pointing more towards the target. Now, I'm using a little bit of the backstop here. This green's perhaps a little bit fiery, and from this angle pitching across the green, I haven't got a lot to deal with. But you'll have seen there pretty similar flight, pretty similar trajectory, maybe not quite as much spin on landing, but it's a nice high, floaty, soft shot. So again, one more of those. Wide, wide, wide. Really almost taking the wrists out of it. And again. Nice shot. So I've hit 4 shots in a very similar position, all to that top left pin there. All of them just grazing the turf, no real divot. Which do I prefer? For me, I would say for your average golfer when I'm coaching them, the wider Jason Day, Steve Stricker-esque is a great one to play, definitely within 30 yards. Take the wrists out of it as much as you can, feel wider. Obviously the wrists have to start to cock, and then uncock on longer swings, but I'd say on the shorter ones, why not keep it as simple as you can? If you're practicing more, if you're actually getting to the driving range, the practice area, by all means try the wrist action option where we're cocking the wrist and allowing the wrist to down cock. And that style of player is going to be better at varying their trajectory with the one club. So what's right depends on you. Give them both a go. I'd love to get your feedback on it. So if you put some comments below, hit the thumbs up if you enjoyed the content, if it's helped you. Don't forget to subscribe. Right now, YouTube is suggesting the next video of mine that's relevant for you. It's just here. Click on it and check it out.